It's good to be back in Miami at the North American Bitcoin Conference. This is always a great event every year, and thanks to Mo and the whole team for putting on such an awesome event, and all the involvement that you now have with the city of Miami just goes to show, the impact that you guys have had holding this event here for, I think, 6 years. I'm up here, I'm going to talk a little bit about a Bitcoin adoption story, maybe a bit differently than you've heard before. As soon as people awaken or get bitten by the Bitcoin bug, they automatically feel like they're behind. There's a race. And if they understand a little bit about mining, then they understand that even more. But most people just think, how do I get exposure to that? How do I start saving that? And so, shout out to Spencer Bogart, who I think just tweeted this 2 days ago, yesterday. Some research from Bitwise Investments that's very fascinating. There's a couple key points to just drive home, I guess, that how much people want a piece of the action of what Bitcoin presents. So over the past decade, people kind of realize, especially with the new year and new decade, looking at what the best performing asset was over the past 10 years. And, they've heard of Bitcoin maybe not, but then they're going to take a look once they see its performance. Wealth advisors and financial advisors have clients asking about it. Very few of them think it's going to zero. And there's some more data on this slide. The number of advisors that are going to allocate to crypto to their client portfolios is going to double this year, according to the Bitwise research. And 72% of advisors are kind of sure their clients are investing already on their own without them, which is nice, right? Bitcoin presents that opportunity, direct access. It's kind of the first investment offering of its kind like that. And yeah, some of these numbers that just jump off to me that, Bitcoin isn't going away, and the rest of the investing world is realizing the same. And so I'm going to introduce our leading lady, our favorite leading lady in cryptography, Alice. She does a good job playing the part, and she's always got a problem. And right now her problem is how to allocate Bitcoin to her personal portfolio. She's bitten by the bug. This is the beginning of the adoption story, and I don't think adoption just starts when you buy some crypto or Bitcoin. Adoption is maybe a multi-year process, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about here. It's a multi-year process because Bitcoin has its own business cycle. Its supply issuance rate changes, kind of predetermined pattern, right? We understand the emission rate of Bitcoin, and the halvening is a pretty important driver of this industry. And so that takes place over the course of 2 to 5 years, that business cycle. And so assuming Alice starts at roughly the beginning of one of those cycles, she's going to allocate maybe just a small portion of her personal wealth into Bitcoin. So she's got, most of it in equities, some fixed income, and she's going to take 5% and punt on Bitcoin. And then Bitcoin goes up, go up. And she's excited. Maybe a few months have gone by, maybe 2 years have gone by. And if 2 years or so have gone by, then there's a good chance her portfolio now looks like this. And this actually happened to a lot of people. That 85% number kind of jumps off. But if you hang on to some Bitcoin and in your portfolio, it's going to, for some time, it's going to end up dominating that portfolio, and you're going to need to rebalance. So she doesn't like that she has all that value in Bitcoin right now, so she's going to do something smart. She's going to sell half of her stack. She's going to pay off her debts. She's going to buy a house. She's going to set up a fixed income portfolio for an income stream, and now she can relax. And she still has half of her stack. So what should she do now? Well, the smart thing to do is pay a little money on some security tools, buy a safe, maybe take some flights and geographically distribute some keys, And, it costs money to save your Bitcoin in cold storage. So cold storage is a very good thing, and being able to self-custody Bitcoin is incredibly profound and important feature. But that presents some costs and some risks, and a lot of people, certainly in the traditional investment ecosystem, aren't comfortable custodying their own wealth, and many of them can't by mandate for whatever reason, jurisdiction, or a variety of reasons. So cold storage, always, always. But if you've been bitten by the Bitcoin bug and you've held it for a while, you've enjoyed the US dollar price appreciation, you begin to realize maybe, there's something more to it than just a bet on appreciating value of Bitcoin to dollars. You realize Bitcoin is the most pristine collateral of all time. And when we think of investing in collateral is very important, insurance, very important. And the most pristine collateral in the fiat or US dollar universe would be treasuries. And so I like to think of Bitcoin as kind of the lead dog in its own category when it comes to collateral. And that means it can perform for you. And if you have your fixed income set up like Alice, and you have a stack of Bitcoin, and you got your cold storage arranged, and you're feeling good about hodling for the next couple of years, you're going to wonder how you can use your Bitcoin to make more Bitcoin. That's what people want, I think. That's kind of when the adoption story can start to complete. You become an adopter. For example, when you're a company who pays its employees in Bitcoin, an employee who takes their paycheck in Bitcoin, or Alice. In Alice's case, here she's an adopter because she now values, she has 2 denominations for her wealth portfolio. She's earning dollars, and she wants to earn Bitcoin. And so she's looking for sources of Bitcoin yield, and so are a lot of people now. There's some tried and true methods and some new methods, and I'll just run down a couple of these. And there's many more here, and maybe each of these items have a few items that can nest into them as well. But exchange lending's been around a long time. Folks are familiar with this. It works like lending securities to short sellers. Bitfinex has been in this game, I think, since 2014. So that's a long time in our world. And a lot of exchanges offer this nowadays, the most reputable ones and some fringe ones and everything in between. Bitcoin deposits can earn yield, and they work like a bank deposit, pretty much. Companies like BlockFi and Celsius, and there's a number of others doing similar. And they offer you, a percentage rate on the Bitcoin they'll hold for you. And they're doing some work with your Bitcoin behind the scenes to be able to provide you that interest rate. So it's a nice service they provide, and I know there's probably a number of users of some of these services in the audience. And another one that gets me very excited, but it's very early, and maybe even not worth talking about, but I want to talk about it because it's truly novel in financial history, and it can present some profound opportunities going forward if it succeeds, and that's Lightning Network routing for fees. So I like to think of this as the second way that you can do business directly with Bitcoin's blockchain, like counterparty-free business, except with Bitcoin itself. Mining being the first way that a person or entity can do business with the blockchain, and harvesting fees from routing Lightning Network payments can be the other way. And people are doing this today. There's a number of large Lightning nodes that are set up strictly to optimize payment routes and harvest fees. And the fees are very inconsequential today, but Lightning is very much still in beta with some protective limitations around it so that people don't get too reckless too soon on it. But it's live and it's working, and it's very interesting that this can be done without a counterparty. That's kind of a beauty of how it's designed. So fascinating. Many implications there. And then derivatives trading. There's a lot to talk about here, and that's kind of where our company, Tantra Labs, sits. We're a systematic algorithmic trading firm and a prop desk, and we trade mostly Bitcoin futures and options. No human discretion as much as you can help it. Basically, let the robot do its job, and it does a good job. And we like that because in this long cycle, business cycle of Bitcoin, there's a lot of emotion and a lot of confusion and noise that can enter into the decision-making process and pollute your strategy if you're not careful. So if there's any discretionary aspects to a strategy, that opens up that risk that you're going to get spooked one day or get too excited one day, and or demands of your colleagues and other strategic partners will get in the way of the long-term plan. And so when you use algorithms and no human discretion, you can kind of just let the cold hard facts be the only inputs and avoid those mistakes. So using Bitcoin as collateral to hedge and speculate, there are very interesting ways to do this. One thing that's being talked about a lot lately that we're very busy with, and shout out to Nick Bhatia, our team member, our head researcher. He's written a post today that came out about this dual denomination idea and Bitcoin's role as collateral in that ability to earn dollars and Bitcoin with your Bitcoin. And he kind of gets into our covered call approach of options writing and as a one way of how to achieve that. So this is the end of Alice's little story of becoming a Bitcoin adopter. She's now got 2 portfolios, one for her USD wealth in this case, and one for her Bitcoin wealth. She's smart enough to keep most of it in her own custody, cold storage, but she's gonna deploy a little slice of her stack to a couple different areas. The ones I referred to, put a little bit on deposit with BlockFi. She's gonna do some exchange lending on the exchanges that she typically uses. She's gonna experiment with Lightning Network routing as a brave pioneer. And she's gonna put a little bit of money with Tantra Labs and our algorithmic portfolio to help generate her some Bitcoin yield. So that's kind of how we think about Bitcoin adoption. And there's a number of ways that you can leverage the instruments available and even build new instruments and primitives for this industry that allow the different market players in our industry to stay in business despite the ups and downs of Bitcoin's business cycle. Thinking about miners here who may have had the opportunity to cash out over the summer when Bitcoin reached 13K. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. And maybe if they didn't, they had a rough fall and winter so far, potentially. So the emergence of these instruments and firms like ours, speculators taking the other sides of these important bets, is a great sign of maturation for our industry and kind of helping to complete the adoption story for all sorts of people, so you don't have to be suffering under the heavy risks of what's going to happen when Bitcoin, with its great volatility, goes against me for a while and I'm still on the hook to pay my Bitcoin salary to my employees, or I'm still, I'm not earning enough US dollar value in the Bitcoins I'm mining to pay my bills and such. So, that's the adoption story I want to tell, all the way to denominating part or maybe even all of your wealth in BTC. And that's it. Thank you.